Hello everybody, Darren Cross here. We are in Module 4, and in Module 4 we are covering Chapters 7 and 8. Chapters 7 and 8 talk about decision-making. Chapter 7 is about the decision-making process and everything that goes into it, and also creativity. And so let's talk just a little bit about the decision-making process. The reason why it's worth it in an MBA course to talk about the decision-making process is that, I mean, you've talked about the process in your management classes before, but the reason why it's important in organizational behavior is that there is this contrast that we have to be aware of, and that is we assume, if the goal of managers is to actually get something done through other people, and we're seeking to understand how other people operate, and that's what this entire class is about, right? Understanding how people operate to the extent that we can influence their behavior or somehow provide them an incentive to do what we need them to do. If we operate along that premise, then we have to understand, so when we get to the point to where we're actually trying to take an action, which is really why we need people in the first place. We have a problem that requires an action, and the action is informed by the decision-making process that we undergo. And so one of the major themes is that we think that we kind of operate as rational as possible, and we think that our decisions are always great. But really, this chapter is about understanding what it means to make a purely rational decision versus what quite often happens as a result of just how we get along in life. And so, all of these biases and all of these things that come in the way prevent us from making a truly rational decision. Because we're people, we have biases, we have worldviews, we have experiences that inform or salt or tag onto the ideas that we really have. And so, for that reason, every product that comes out of our decision-making machine, we feel is at least good to the extent that in our view, at some point, we thought that it satisfied our problem. But what we're going to learn is that that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always the best decision. And so we really just kind of have to understand that. And then at the end of that chapter, we talk about creativity, and why that matters is when we're trying to solve these problems, understanding the conditions that are inside of a person and that influence a person from the outside, that inform or influence creativity, those are important. So if we recognize those, we might be able to A, identify people who might be more creative than others, or B, identify situations that might be more conducive for creativity than other situations. And then that goes into, when we're talking about, Chapter 7 is talking about how to make a decision and how to be creative. Now take that and lay it over into this concept that we're not always working by ourselves. Sometimes we're working in groups and teams. And so to the extent that that's true, our behavior that we observe as people, as individuals that are actually informed by our experiences and worldviews and biases, now changes. So we operate a little bit differently, and you know that. I mean, your school you is different from your work you, and your work you is different from your home you. So what are the things that actually come into play there? What changes the ways that we act as individuals when we're now around other people? And what is an effective team? How do teams get along? What does it mean to have the best structure? What does it mean to have the best dynamics? That's what this chapter is all about. And so it's important because it's starting to extend the scope of analysis that we're looking at. Remember that one of the anchors that we were looking at, or that we have in OB, is this multiple levels of analysis anchor. And so this is starting to look beyond the individual and on teams. And that's very important because we very rarely do you have a one-man organization where only individual behavior matters. And so that's why we have to look at teams. So I want you to dig into both of those chapters and then go into the discussion board, and that should help shore up some of these things. And your writing assignment actually goes into goes into the next part of the OB project. So just get digging on that, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. Good luck, everyone.